Hey everybody, Aaron here, and welcome back to another anime review. Today we look at the series known as The Disappearance of Nagato Yuki-chan, which is actually a spin-off of The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. Now, I'll be honest with you, this is my fifth take of this thing, so if there's mistakes in this from here on out, I'm leaving them in. I'll be honest with you, I've done this review like 5 times because I keep messing up either the title or I keep messing up someone's name. So you know what? We're just going off of this with no edits. This is from here on out. This version is just what's going to be actually presented to you guys and girls. Now, I'll say this right now. Many of you might already kind of know that there's a big stigmata on this disappearance of Nagato Yuki-chan. A lot of people have told me in the past that this is garbage, that people have told me this is not worth watching, that this is just kind of kills the whole Haruhi Suzumiya story, it kills everything, all the characters are very different, etc. And I went into that knowing that, because I bought the limited edition one, which came with everything. It came with the spin-off series. It came off the original one, and also the little chibi one that came out too. So I was like, I have to watch it. I want to watch it. I've always kind of been a huge fan of Haruhi, so I'm like, you know what? I'll give it a shot. Because as many of you know, actually, I do own the whole Haruhi series, the light novels and stuff like that. And I've almost read almost all of them. I'm probably 4 or 5 volumes away from finishing it. I kind of break it up because it kind of gets a little tedious at one point. I'll just say the summer arc is really tedious, but I think it's the same thing with the anime, to be honest. But I went into this blind. I try to go into this going, you know what? I don't care what anyone said about it. I'm just gonna watch it for what it's worth. And in many ways, it does a good job at the very beginning because we get Nagato's perspective. And Nagato is a big character of the Haruhi story. She has her role and she has her predominant concepts. But in this is her story essentially, and I think that's kind of cool. What kills it at one point is that they switch then to Kion's story, and it's like, why is Kion now the narrator for this? Why? What was the purpose of that? And I think it kills the whole momentum when they start doing that. And I hate to say it, but Kion is one of my favorite characters from Haruhi's story. In this, he kind of pissed me off because they did his story and it kind of ruined the flow of Nagato's story. Now, like I said before, let me first get into the synopsis of this. So this is a spin-off. This is not anything related per se to Haruhi Suzumiya's story. There is some homages. There is, of course, various characters that show up, of course, from the original stuff, the original source material. And there are times where they try to link the two together, oh, you know what, maybe we'll show this or that to make you think that it might have some semblance to the original stuff. It really doesn't. So don't go into this going like that. Every character is very different. A lot of the characters that might be enemies are now best friends of the main characters. It's very, very focused on a more romantic plot than anything else than the original. The original had some romance elements, but it was more comedy / goofy stuff. This is more drama romance stuff. Now, the whole concept, of course, is the literary club is, of course, just coming to being. We have Kion joining, Nagato, and then various other characters joining. Of course, Haruhi joins in, changes the whole club around. And that's where the brunt of the story starts taking place, is when, everyone's together and trying to get essentially Kion with Nagato, because Nagato, like I said before, is the main narrative for the most part. She starts off talking about how she's falling in love with Kion slowly. And she starts falling in love with him more and more, and then something happens midway through the show, and when that happens, it kind of switches perspective to Kion's kind of narration again, and that's where I have issues with the show. It starts getting very tedious at one point, but more so, it loses momentum completely when Kion switches. That is probably the biggest issue with it. But overall, with the whole ending concept, that's also what, the story, just in general, starts off strong and then just ends very, very flat. And it's really the middle and the end that are really flat. And it kind of kills the whole ebb and flow. Like I said, the strong beginning, but weak everything else. Animation-wise, I didn't have any issues with animation. I think the animation was on par with the original source material. I like the character designs. I think some of the characters were kind of cooler looking now. I especially like Kion and Kozumi. They both looked pretty cool in this, to be honest with you. Haruhi looked a lot better with long hair, because I love Haruhi when she has long hair in the original source, the original stuff. But they, of course, chop it off and give her shorter hair. But I love her with long hair. She's awesome with that. Voice acting wise, I watched this all in English. I did listen to the Japanese dub because the OVA is in Japanese, so I did watch the OVA also, which the OVA was garbage, by the way. I'll just say that right. That was unnecessary garbage. But the thing is that the voice acting in English, I really love the voice actors. They were all very, very cool. Japanese voice cast, perfect also. There's nothing wrong with that. Music wise, I'll say this right now, I wasn't a fan of any of the music here. I love the original stuff. The original music was great. The opening and closing were good. The original background music was great. This was all kind of just like, man, like I've heard it before, but even more so, I hated the opening. I hated the closing. I really didn't like them. I didn't like even how they sounded at any point. And I think a few people will probably agree with me that this is probably the weakest soundtrack for the whole series. But overall, you know, I want to say this, that I like I said before, I don't like going to a series where I try to always make sure that I'm not agreeing with someone right away without having watched it. I want to make sure that I watch it first, and then from there I either agree with disagree with people. I'll say this right now, I now agree with a lot of people. This is really unnecessary. It's not horrible. I don't think I'm going to call it garbage level, mind you. I'm going to give this a score between an A through F, of course. I'm probably going to give it a C minus. It's not garbage, it really is not. But the thing is that it has a lot of moments that it could have been done a lot better, and I think the characters could have been utilized a lot better, because I like how they were different from the original source material. I like how Kion was more of a kind of talkative character and more goofy than before. I liked how Kozumi actually was more so in love with Haruhi, and you know, he was like basically her lapdog. I thought that was kind of funny because it's almost like a play on how he acts in the original stuff. I even liked Nagato. I think that her gamer kind of aspect of her was kind of cute and funny. There is a point where she kind of goes into the I want to say original way of being, where she's very quiet and more so a book nerd than she is now. But I overall feel like this was a very weak spin-off series, and I really had issues with it, to be honest. And I can't really recommend watching it unless you're a super diehard fan, or if you really just kind of want to get more Haruhi, I guess. But the thing is even then, I'm going to say it's not worth watching, to be honest. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. As always, if you did, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share the video, you know the whole nine. Until our paths cross again in the next review, have a good one, everyone. Bye-bye.